Hey everybody, I'm here with my friend Saberspark, and we're going to do a tier list. We haven't done one in a long time. I think the last one we did was back in like July of last year, I think. So it's been a while.
Officially, yes. We've done some unofficial tier lists with friends, but
Yeah, yeah, but they
officially,
they
it's been
weren't
a hot
recorded.
minute. Yeah.
But there were some fun times. But we're gonna
Mhm.
record this one because Lightyear is coming out this week, and we haven't seen it yet. But there are officially 25 Pixar movies that are out now. Um, so we're going to do a tier list of all 25 that are out, like from Toy Story to Turning Red. Um, leaving out Lightyear because we both haven't seen it yet. We'll see it this weekend. But
Mhm.
yeah. So I guess we can get started with we're going to go in chronological order here. With all the different movies. S to D. For rankings. Um,
This is interesting. I feel like this is one of those subjects where so many folks can weigh in on, and I think there's enough common denominators without people being contrarians,
right.
but also like enough elbow room for people to get opinionated where it doesn't where you're not forcing an opinion unless you're never mind. Uh,
We're gonna mention somebody.
I won't. All right, so you said chronologically, so we're
Yeah,
starting with Toy
chronologically.
Story.
So Toy Story. Yeah. Um, so I did change it because this is a tier list that was already on Tier Maker. And one of the things they had here, the S tier was timeless, but I thought that can be kind of weird. We're gonna probably get hung up on things if we think about it too much of what like timeless means. Because for Toy Story, it has aged a bit as far as how it looks. Um, it still looks
Wait,
great, but there's certain other parts of Toy Story that does haven't aged as well, like the humans and the dog especially. Sid's dog.
yeah, that dog. No, they were to be fair. I mean, what a trailblazer of a film, and what a way to introduce the medium. But yeah, Sid and Sid's dog, not that great looking. Toy
The
Story,
story itself though is still really good.
it's very good. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the backbone of what makes a good movie.
And
Show
for
or
like
anything. It's
the first
story. It's
full length
timeless.
like 3D animated movie, like yeah, they nailed it.
Oh, yeah, I put it in the, tier. I think
Yeah,
it's
same.
it's
Same.
it's upper A, and I know that there's can you, like, not depart, can you divide, like, the production of a film from the film itself and just judge it on its own merits? But it's so difficult for me to do knowing how just insane, like, the work that went into it and just how good it was, like, for
Hmm.
this to be a first entry for 3D animation for a film, it's like, wow, this is remarkable. So, it holds up.
Yeah. All right. Next is a Bug's Life. Uh,
Hmm.
I always forget
What a
about Bug's
book.
Life when going over Pixar movies. 'Cause I was like, oh yeah, that was the second movie they made.
It's
Um,
forgettable, in my opinion. Well, kinda not forgettable. The Good Dinosaur is forgettable. Uh,
we'll
excuse
get
me.
to that.
Bugs Life, I would put in. So, for the record, this is relative to Pixar. Now, if we threw
Right.
in like Illumination, I'd be like, okay, this changes everything.
Right.
But Bugs Life on that scale, I'd say is C. It's
Yeah.
okay.
See, like I remember we were doing at MomoCon, we were doing a panel called Smash or Pass, and like oh yeah.
As one does.
One of the characters we didn't get to was the spider from Bug's Life, and I completely forgot what her name was. And like when we were in the hotel room going over the different characters, like, wait, who is that? It was like, oh yes, the spider from Bug's Life.
Right. I forget her name too. Scarlett Johansson. Um, I thought Bugs Life. I mean, it's neat to see what Pixar was trying to do. Where like you have to give them massive props for like just from Toy Story all the way to like Toy Story 3. It's like unreal. Like talk about one of the greatest winning streaks ever. And because I'm pretty sure Cars 2 came after Toy Story 3, I believe.
Right.
But but like they had such there's such distinct films with what they wanted to do and character designs. And for Bugs Life, it's like okay, it's cool it's relatable, because everybody knows about bugs and these ants are just little miniature versions of humans, and I'm correct, it's isn't it based on like the Seven Samurai?
Yeah, it's
Like,
based on Seven Samurai.
so
I'm gonna make
I
our
mean,
webcams bigger here.
I thought that Flick was, he's okay. He's kind of a dork, but in the grand scheme of Pixar characters, there isn't something where I'm like slamming my desk where I'm like, that was the best, like for Bug's Life. It's just like,
Right.
no, it's just solid and of satisfaction across the board. Though visually it hasn't aged amazingly, but hasn't
Right.
aged horribly
It's
either.
it's funny because like some of the like the story has aged well with the like Hopper and stuff about like intimidating the ants and everything.
Mhm.
I think that that's a good story.
Oh yeah.
But like overall, I don't remember much about it, even though I've seen it multiple times.
I had fun with like the circus bugs where I'm like, oh, there's such a colorful lot, and I always thought the beetle was cool with his little
Yeah.
helicopter wings. But I say helicopter as in like the sound effect they used. I mean, there are good moments where like I laugh out loud where you have them trying to rescue Dot from the bird, and you have like the helicopter from
Yeah,
the
yeah.
beetle, and then the camera zooms out and just a little bug in the distance, the bird, going after it. And it's like, to them, it's like life or death on the grand scale. For us, it's like, hey, there's a beetle being chased by a bird. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there you go.
And like I said, with watching these movies multiple times, like we've seen like all these movies multiple times, like
Hmm.
over the years. So that's something that Pixar is really good at, is like having movies you want to go back to, and just
Even if
rewatch
they're
them.
not like fantastic, it's still like, it's a Pixar film, so that's a mark of quality.
Yeah.
I feel like, and we'll get to it. Okay, so Toy Story 2.
Toy Story 2. Yeah. I would put this on the same level as the first Toy Story. It's a really great follow up, I think, and like the new characters they introduced with like Jesse and the prospector. Um, they're great. Um,
Mhm.
and I love when they have the other Buzz that comes in that like still thinks he's a toy and like fighting Zurg and whatever. That's really great. And
It's good. I
what's
like
it?
the meme with the panning out of the the buzz. Have you seen that meme
Yeah,
template yet?
yeah.
Where it's like, sorry,
um,
there's a template for that. All right,
and
continue.
like Big Al's toy barn. With Wayne Knight, Newman from
He nailed it.
Seinfeld. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
It was great.
There and the that was so this is something. I remember making a shit post about this where when as kids we finally realized that Pixar would not be returning bloopers to the outro
Oh
credits.
yeah,
And
yeah, right.
if that picture I use like a crying Vegeta, like looking at the sky with the rain coming down. Because like Toy Story or Bugs Life, to its credit, it did introduce the Pixar blooper
Yeah, the
reel.
bloopers. Yeah,
Um, and then Toy Story 2 did that. And then it's sad that it's the exception. It was such a cool thing. I loved it. But whatever. Maybe it's just too expensive. Uh,
yeah.
say Toy Story is still, I rank it higher than Toy Story 2. The only reason why is I feel like
Oh yeah,
Toy
I'll put
Story,
that like above Toy Stories 2 as far as like in the intermittent tier listing.
right? Yeah, just I think Toy Story had more bite to it, and just like to introduce the story of Buzz and Woody being so envious and all the other toys in the room. But like Toy Story 2 is still very good. So
Yeah,
props to it. Visually, it's great, and also
yeah. It
props
has
to that one
the ASMR
animator.
scene with Woody getting fixed.
Oh yeah, and the guy who played chess too. They brought in. You
Yeah, yeah.
can't rush art. All right, what's
Um,
next?
Next is Monsters Inc. Um, so this one I watched a lot as a kid because I had it on DVD. And I just rewatch it a lot, and also like the special features and junk. Um, and I really liked the concept of it. It was a very fun movie. With a like simplistic monster designs, but like they still really work as far as like the characters go.
Great casting,
Yeah.
great writing for the characters. Like their Picture's very good at finding like voice actors where it's like, yeah, we know who Billy Crystal is. He has a career outside of animation, but
Right. They
it's
they
like,
did start the trend of like hiring like big celebrity voice casts.
yeah,
So
but it's
that's Pixar's
appropriate.
sin. Like, it's
No, no,
it's
no, 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 no.
what do you
I
think?
wouldn't. Yes and no. It's like, yeah, they perpetuated that, or at least they kind of like fan the flames a bit. But to their credit, like Tom Hanks as Woody, amazing.
Yeah.
Compare that to
The
like
thing's like
DreamWorks,
Pixar's
where
the best at doing it.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. Is like if you're gonna cast A-listers, then at least cast the right ones. Which for
Right.
John Goodman for Sully, great. He
Yeah.
nailed it. Billy Crystal, absolutely. Steve Buscemi, it's great
Yeah.
as Randall. Compare that to like Illumination, where
Oh
it's like,
yeah.
yeah, that's not really. It doesn't feel
Let's
as
have Kevin Hart just play
profound,
Kevin Hart. Is like, yeah.
right? It's Kevin Hart as a bunny. It's like, oh, whatever. I don't care. So Monsters Inc. though, story wise, it's a really cool world they set up, but there's something about the pacing of the movie that kind of loses my interest a bit at times, where it just
Mhm.
drags. I put it in the good category, so it's above, or I put it in
Like
B tier for
B
me,
tier. Yeah. Yeah.
upper
I would
B
say B
tier.
tier.
Yep.
I think I do like the Toy Stories a bit more than Monsters Inc. But
As,
it's still a really good movie.
yep.
All right. Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo is S tier.
Oh yeah, that's S tiered for me too. It's like it's one of my favorite Pixar movies.
It's arguably, and we'll discuss this in a bit, but arguably the best Pixar film in my opinion.
Really?
Um, and we'll get around to it, but like Finding Nemo, we'll say is easily a contender for best because it fires on all cylinders. I remember watching the movie, which still holds up, it's like tremendously
Oh yeah.
on a visual level and story wise too, and great characters. But like I remember like going because my family and I went on a beach trip to Marco Island, and they had a cool little like local theater there. My dad's like, "Hey, Steven," and then to my little sister, we're like, "You all want to go see this new Pixar film, Finding Nemo?" So I'm already get like the beach aesthetic going on and
Right.
vibe. When to go watch it, I'm like, oh my god, like I've never seen like the ocean presented like this before in a movie. I felt like I was
Right.
in the ocean. And I watched the film like a year ago. And I'm like, this still looks amazing. Like,
Yeah.
and again, like what's something that Pixar's so good at is it's not just good visuals. You have a very good story with very great characters. I think Finding Nemo deserves an S tier, easy peasy.
Right.
So,
This came
and we'll
out like
just
right before I was getting into like the ocean life stuff. So it like came out at around the right time for me.
there you go.
And I remember
Good
seeing it
timing.
in theaters and like seeing the preview on the Monsters Inc. DVD that I had. I
Mhm.
was like, wow, I can't wait for this movie.
Props to
And then
the
when I saw it, I was like, this is great. I love it.
something I've come to appreciate over the years, and it's something I like subconsciously knew, but now I actively want to acknowledge it is like the music in Finding Nemo is so
Oh yeah.
whimsical, and they really just the use of the instruments, like with the I remember like going to the aquarium with you in
Mm,
Georgia and Atlanta, and you also you hear the background like music for like different exhibits, and I like how you have like the string instruments that they kind of hold for a bit, and it makes you feel like it's the water just kind of moving around slowly until it picks up. And
right.
again, I'm not Hirasashi. I'm not good at explaining music for me. I'm terrible, but I know what I feel, and it felt appropriate. It felt right. Like I was in tune, synced up with the ocean, and so good. Great soundtrack.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great movie. Um, Next is The Incredibles,
Ooh.
which I skipped seeing in theaters. Um, Actually, there's a few that I skipped up to a certain point. Um, where I wasn't really seeing movies in theaters that much. But The Incredibles, it's a really good movie, and it's basically the best Fantastic Four movie we're going to get.
I put Incredibles above Toy Story 1 and 2.
Yeah, I would say that as well.
There's just something so fun about it. And also, like, I think I brought up the soundtrack for Finding Nemo. The soundtrack for The Incredibles is better. It's so exciting. But
Yeah, it has an excellent soundtrack. I love like how many memes have come out of Incredibles too.
love it. Also, the action scenes, like the scene where Dash is running away on the ocean, like on top of the water.
Mhm.
I adore that action scene. And Syndrome's a great villain. Like to
Right.
have him, he's like when everyone's special, no one is. I'm like, that's a great line.
Yeah.
So, and
Also,
having this father with
do you
Mr. Incredible.
do you have this Mandela effect with The Incredibles where you thought that Mirage was a robot?
Mm-mm.
I don't know why,
Why
but
do you confuse it?
for some reason I thought that Mirage was a robot when I rewatched the movie. I was like, wait a minute, wasn't Mirage a robot? And it's just like an idea in my brain that I thought that Syndrome made a robot, and it was Mirage.
Mm-mm. I don't think so. I never
I don't
had
know if
no, that never
anybody else
crossed my
has
mind.
had that like
She's
memory
very
or something.
sleek and efficient, I suppose. Maybe that's
Yeah,
why.
I don't
But
know.
I mean, again, the Pixar's so good at finding very relatable things, where it's like a father being like overprotective about his son with Finding Nemo. Okay, it's relatable. Mr. Incredible having a midlife crisis and wanting to live in the glory days, but also at odds raising a family that just so happen to be superheroes too. That's cool. I like
Mhm.
that. It's like take something that's relatable and grounded, but then elevate it with something like extraordinary. So um The Incredibles is one of my favorites, which really hurt when the second film came out for me, or
Yeah,
I say really hurt. It was disappointing 'cause I'm like, "Oh, this one doesn't hit as well." But
right.
we'll talk about that in a
Yeah,
bit.
we'll talk about that soon. Um, Cars.
I mean,
I remember like my parents went to go see this because like they were fans of like Larry the Cable Guy and everything.
of course.
Yeah, that was a big
Mm,
draw.
Cars is one of the most normie Pixar films where I'm like, "It's harmless, it's okay, I'll watch it." It's below Monsters, Inc. for me, but above Bug's Life.
Right. Would
So
you put it
Cars
in
is
B or
fine.
C?
B tier, low B.
Yeah, I'd say B because I still think it has a good story.
It's adequate. And
Yeah.
I do like Radiator Springs and Cars. The Cars franchise is so wild to me because you have so Disney has really tried its best. I'm sorry, let me start that over. Disney has royally fucked up where they through they were very quick to follow through with the Star Wars sequel trilogy and do Star Wars Land for each perspective for Disneyland, Disney World. And it's like, okay, you decided to not really plan out this trilogy and then have a permanent theme park based around it. That doesn't that seem a bit preemptive? And
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
building a house on sand, which I'll bring this full circle here. So it's like, man, it's kind of weak now. Like I don't care about Star Wars Land if I go to Disney. I just don't. I'm like, yeah, it's
Right.
okay. Like if Mandalorian's there, if I see all Mando guy, I'm like, that's kind of cool. And I'm sure Disney's kicking themselves like, God damn it! Like Mandalorian's so much more popular than our trilogy. You reap what you sow. That being said, though, Radiator Springs at Disneyland with the Cars
Yeah,
ride and that section is phenomenal
it's
and very
great.
immersive. And I'm like, it's so weird to me to think that the films, I'm like, they're all right, they're solid. Well, the first one's solid, the third one is solid. The second one, we'll talk about that here in a bit. But the theme park section with Radiator Springs is phenomenal.
Yeah, and it's
I
like one
wanted
of
to
the
say
best
that
rides.
one of the best rides. It's
Yeah.
kind of it's a bit uncanny, or it's a bit bizarre that it's like one of the films I find to be just kind of average in Pixar's filmography. Has a theme park section or has a theme park area that's like one of the best parts of Disneyland, and
Yeah.
or I say Disneyland. Okay, Disney purists, California Adventures. All right.
Ka-chow.
Ka-chow.
All right, Ratatouille.
This is the only okay. Ratatouille's S tier.
S
Um,
tier,
and
really.
here,
I would put it in A tier for me. I might have it below
wow,
Incredibles.
wow, that's surprising. Really,
Yeah, I still really like it. Like it's still A tier to me. But I still really like it. Like the whole thing with the critic and his like monologue at the end is really good. Um and like Remy and the designs of the characters are really interesting. But I don't know, it just doesn't hit with me as much as it does everyone else.
okay. I S tier easy, and it's one of the films that's and I'll bring it all full circle here at the end with my deliberation. But Ratatouille rivals Finding Nemo, um, if not completely evenly matched. But we'll talk about that here in a bit. But Ratatouille's S tier for me.
Yeah. Um Wally. This one's S tier for me.
Wally's so goddamn cool. It's like that was probably one of their most bold movies. where
Yeah.
they're like, we don't have to get heavy in dialogue, which they eventually bring it in later in the film. But the first like act of the film is like very few lines of audio or of dialogue. It's all physical, and I think it's very powerful storytelling. You can look at a character and really figure things out without having it say a word.
Right. I
Wally's S tier for me.
Yeah, I think with this film also, it was showing like their continued prowess with like CG animation and like getting like much better lighting in this movie. Um
Mhm.
and also when I found out about it and like I saw a commercial for it and I asked my dad, just like, want to go see this Pixar movie? It looks really cool. With
Yep.
the robots and stuff with the future. And also this was also when Pixar and Disney um were putting out movies before they became the mega corporation that they are. This was before they bought Marvel, before they bought Star Wars, before they bought Fox. Um, so it's very interesting to go back and see this movie, and you're like, huh.
Yep. It's I think it's funny because if this movie came out nowadays, people would be all up in arms, being like, "It's
Right.
preachy." It's like no, it's quite appropriate if anything, and it does it very tastefully. Um, if anything, you know, a good message to heed,
Yeah.
and one that at least gives you a level of optimism. But Wally's a great character. His little cute, quirky sound effects. I had a crush on Eve
On Eve.
when I first saw it. I was like, because someone I saw some like art where they did like a anthro version
Is
of
it
her, and I'm
because she's
like,
shaped like a butt plug?
oh, duh, yeah, she can check me for organic life. What's next?
Next is Up.
Hmm. Where do
What
you
do you?
place it?
I don't know. It's kind of teetering on S and A for me. Um.
I have a pretty rare opinion about Up that does not really line up with the rest of mainstream, I guess, opinion. People will say Up's the best Pixar film.
Mhm.
I think it's very, very good. But everybody, I think Jack said this too, and I agree with him. Most folks based their opinion of Up within the first 10 minutes of the film, which is admittedly fantastic. But the rest of the film after that is very, very good. But I don't think it's as good as people make it out to be, or it's not as good as like I'd say it's below The Incredibles, if not Toy Story, in my
Hmm.
opinion. I think it's very good, but there are parts where it drags a bit for me, and I'm just being honest. Like it's
Yeah, I think the part that like got me because like it's like the first 10 minutes or whatever is really good, but then like there's parts towards the middle and end where the relationship between Russell and Carl like really like start to
balloons.
shine, and especially when Russell's talking about like him with his dad, how they used to get like ice cream and stuff, and sitting on the sidewalk and how he like misses that because like you find out like oh he doesn't like see his dad anymore. um and then like at the end
Russell's a great character.
When Russell and Carl are like sitting on the sidewalk with each other, I was like that is like very very precious. So
Yeah,
for
it's they both
that for me it's like it's the top of the A tier for me.
okay. Yeah, I mean it's very very good. I just don't think it's as S tier good, which I'm sure I'll get some flack for that.
Yeah. All right. Toy Story 3.
Toy Story 3 is very good.
Yes.
I think it's the best of the Toy Story franchise, and upper A tier for me. I think it's better than Up, and possibly better than The Incredibles.
I'm gonna put it on. Let's see. For me, it's going to be the lower S tier.
Okay.
Um, because like it's a very good conclusion, though it wasn't really. Um, to the at least the conclusion for like Andy's like toys.
The
Um,
Andy arc.
yeah, the Andy arc of Toy Story. um, and I remember like leading up to this movie. Reading about it's funny because like I was browsing Co uh on 4chan and I was reading like somebody like posted a fake spoiler of like, oh yeah, Woody and all the toys die.
I think I
And I was
remember
like,
seeing
"Oh
that.
no!" And then when I watched the movie, I was like, "Wait a minute, was that spoiler real?" Because like when they're in that moment in the incinerator and they're all holding hands, I'm like, "Holy shit! Are they actually gonna do this?" Because
That's what
they
I thought.
linger on that for a while.
Well, yeah, it's like they're coming to the end of their, it's like, okay, you're trash. But I gotta say, like, okay, so Toy Story 1, 2, and 3 as a trilogy. Because and then we'll talk about the other one here in a bit, but Toy Story 1, 2, and 3, like holy shit, like what a phenomenal trilogy.
Yeah,
And that
especially like
and it,
if we were like kids, we were like kids when Toy Story 1 and 2 came out, and then like Toy
yeah,
Story 3, we're all in college,
right.
like just like
I
Andy's
remember
age.
but I just want to say though, like talk the setup of their rescue with the claw, I was like, that's great.
Yeah,
Like, it's, here we are introducing the claw in Toy Story 1, and then it's like, here we are again, the claw. It's like, oh, that's good. Um, Toy Story 3 had a very emotional end to with Woody being a long partner. And it's like, that's powerful because it wasn't them trying to perpetuate Andy's relationship with the toys. He grew up, he said
mm.
goodbye, things come to an end, and you move on. I thought that was very powerful. And I have thoughts about another film, and we'll get to here in a bit.
All right, Cars 2.
Yep.
This is one of the only films I'm gonna put in D tier.
It's a
It's
disappointment.
so stupid.
Damn it, where's yours?
I've seen it like multiple times now, but every time I watch it, I was like, there's certain things where I'm like, hey, that's kind of funny, but this is still really dumb.
It's I know it's easy to dunk on this film and for people to be contrarians about it, where they're like, look at the story, it's so complicated. It's with this oil tycoon and spies and all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't care. Like I put it in D tier as well, where I'm like, it felt that was the first time where it felt like Pixar was buckling under executive pressure to
Right,
make something popular for toys, which I know that they say that we don't do that. We only tell a story if we want to tell a story. I'm like, okay, then it's even worse than that. You told a bad story. I didn't care for it.
right.
So, I mean, is it better than like okay, like Home from DreamWorks is much worse than Cars 2. Like
Yeah,
that hurts to watch. Cars 2 is like I can watch it, but I'm not really like going crazy about it. So yeah,
right.
D tier.
Speaking of, Brave.
I watched Brave again with Laura recently just to
Mm,
reassess my opinion on it. I put it in the C tier. I put it above. I think about Brave that kind of makes it hurts it in my opinion. 'Cause I know it's like it's Scottish history with the different clans and everything, and you have like the magic and the bear, but like it feels dull to me
right.
compared to
I
all
did
the
I did rewatch it recently with Jax because he was like watching through all the Pixar movies that he hadn't seen before, and I rewatched it with Jackson Hero, and man, we were both bored.
it's a
Like,
it's not as exciting.
yeah.
Like
I
Merritt is a great character.
just for that, like I had to put it in D tier for me. Like,
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
it's still better than Cars 2, but yeah. Because I remember when I first watched it, I watched it with my mom, and like my mom was like just ready to go. Though to be fair, my mom has a lower attention span when it comes to movies.
All right. After that, it's Monsters University.
Yeah, which I think we both have like a similar opinion on this movie, which is like against the grain of the usual opinion of this movie. Um,
I remember I remember going to see Monsters University with Race and Sarah when I was in Texas for a convention, and we all went to go see it at a theater. And on our drive back, we were both kind of like, that was a bit underwhelming.
mm,
Um, my opinion has drastically shifted throughout the years. The rewatchability of this movie is off the chart, in my opinion. And like, I think it's tough because people see this movie as like it's not essential to the world of Monsters Inc. And they see it as a bit of like it's like we don't need this really. It's just
right.
extra. But the story of Mike and Sully, where Mike is all brains and determination and drive, and he is brilliant, but he's just not scary. And then you have Sully, who is like he's gifted with being terrifying with these talents, but he lacks any refinements or knowledge or just the acumen of being brilliant when it comes to like actually putting that talent into effect. And to me, that is again, I always appreciate the stories that like aren't afraid to tell you the reality of a situation where it's like people die, things come to an
Mm,
end. But for this one, it's like no matter how much you want it, Mike, you will never be scary, but
right.
you are fearless, and it's like that's great. Like
Yeah.
that's a powerful, and also like the other characters are fun. Like Uzma Kappa, like all the little goofy like frat boys,
Yeah, they're all
the
great.
college
Like
monster life.
a lot of the side characters in this are very fun.
hmm I think it's a great film. I I think its message and its theme, and also like visually, I think it like you compare Monsters University to Monsters Inc. and it's like holy shit, they
Yeah.
nailed it. Like Monsters University has a
Oh yeah,
massive
like
upgrade.
this is when we were seeing like returning characters, and we were seeing like how much Pixar had improved with like their CGI. And I was like, holy crap, this looks amazing.
I'm about to do something that's gonna get me stabbed in the face,
Oh,
probably.
me too.
Um, I put Monsters University above Toy Story 2, Toy Story, and Up in the A tier.
Ooh,
Um,
I don't think I would put it
it's
that high, but for me, I put it above
I
Monsters
love
Inc.,
it.
which still like will make people mad. Because I think
I
a lot of people didn't like this movie because they think it's like derivative because it's like like another college movie or whatever. Um,
right.
but like that's still like a genre of a movie. It's just how well you execute it, and
They seemed
I think it
unnecessary.
executed it very well.
Yes, because if you take a moment to finally get past the college, like, okay, it's this college aesthetic, it's college life, woot woot woot. And I think people like Monsters Inc. is a great Pixar franchise, but I don't think it really hits the same way as like a Toy Story or an Up or a Ratatouille does for most viewers
Hmm.
who like the Monsters University. I mean, like I feel like there's again so much rewatchability about it. Like I can just watch this thing constantly. I mean, that's a me thing. But like just again, the characters coming face to face with their own limitations, but also overcoming it by working together. That's great. I love that. Um, it's a good film. I mean, I'm gonna get crucified for saying it's better than Up or Toy Story 2, and I'm sure folks are gonna tell me like I'm wrong. But I'm just going with my gut and what I feel, and I feel like I have enough of a know-how to at least explain my reasoning. But you know,
Yeah.
that's how I feel.
All right. So Pixar for a few years with like Toy Story 3, like Cars 2, Monster University, they were like, oh yeah, we're doing like more sequels and prequels and junk, and then we're going back to original films here.
That
Uh,
was refreshing.
yeah, with Inside Out, which I think is fantastic. I love Inside Out.
Inside Out felt like it was probably the closest in tone and feeling to the original Pixar winning streak.
Right. Um, which for me
Pete
that's
Doctor.
I think I like it. I don't know if I like it more than Finding Nemo, but I like it better than Wally. Um, as far as my S tier goes.
It's in
Because
my
like
A tier, but top A tier for me.
because Inside Out, like the way it deals with emotions, literally, um, is so great, and especially the just
Mhm.
like learning how to like, oh yeah, it's okay to feel sad, and
Yes.
there's like different ways of feeling sad, of like, how like joy and sadness at the end, they sort of combine their different emotions, to create a core memory, and it's really really great.
It's powerful. That was a great movie to teach you that because sometimes we are like, why wouldn't we want to just have happiness at all times, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like because you need emotions, you need to feel anger to defend yourself. You need to feel fear in order to be on your toes and ready to act. And then sadness, it's like I hate to compare it, and I hate, but like it's like Butters when he was talking about that episode of like we got dumped in that episode of South Park, and he said like crying was a beautiful sadness. And
Hmm.
it's like it's true. Like when Lammy passed away, I cried and I cried and I cried. But I'm like, I'm glad I could, and I don't regret it. And I actually hold it very close to me I'm like, I want to feel this way. That's my love manifesting in grief. And to me, like, to find a film that can help a person better know themselves and actually improve themselves, like, that's powerful. That's art. And Inside Out definitely nails that. So like, I agree with you. Not an S tier, but upper A tier.
Okay, now here's where we're going to have a very different opinion.
Let's go.
All right, The Good Dinosaur came out the same year as Inside Out, and I think that was a big detriment to it. Um,
Yep.
and also, this is another thing when we were talking about Bugs Life earlier, how like Pixar is sort of held like because this Bugs Life came out and people were like, oh yeah, it's amazing, and then we're looking back on it, it's like it's all right.
It's all
Um,
right.
I think the same thing happened to Good Dinosaur, except for it's like we already have all these amazing Pixar movies, so like Pixar is held up to a much higher standard. Whereas like if Good Dinosaur came out from like uh Illumination or like Sony or DreamWorks or any other like CG animated studio, um, people would be like, oh yeah, this is like an underrated classic or whatever. Um, but Good Dinosaur just has the unfortunate like mark of being a Pixar movie, so people hold it to such a much
Unfortunate.
higher standard. Um,
Yeah, but even then, I feel like it's a very simple story.
yeah,
Ironically,
it's funny because like a lot of people compare it to like other animated dinosaur movies we've had in the past with Land Before Time and dinosaur Disney's Dinosaur, whereas like it's always a journey, like to get back to somewhere. Um,
yep.
which I wish they would explore more like stories with dinosaurs.
The T Rex
Besides just
characters are
that.
great.
Yeah, I love the T-Rex characters, like with
They're
Sam
great.
Elliott
Highlight
and his kids.
highlight of the film.
Yeah,
Highlight of the
they're
film.
really good. And this film looks incredible. Like
Oh yeah.
there were because when I first watched this with my dad and we went to the theater and we saw the ending scenes with just the environments, we're like, wait, that's not real? Like that looks incredibly realistic. Um, with the technology they were able to achieve with this movie. Um, but of course I'm biased because dinosaurs, and I did enjoy the relationship between Arlo and Spot, the human that he comes across, and that scene with him talking to Spot about his family, like communicating uh with like using sticks and dirt. Um, I thought that was a nice scene. Um, so I would say I enjoy it more than Cars. Um, I don't know if I enjoy it more than Monsters Inc. So it's like in B tier for me.
It's in C tier for me. Upper C tier.
All right. This is another one I think we'll have differing opinions on. Finding Dory.
It has the had big shoes to fill and it did
It
not
did.
achieve that. It's I think it's just in C tier, to be honest. Upper C tier.
Um, I'm gonna hmm. I'm gonna say it's I think I like it a bit more than Good Dinosaur, so I'm gonna put it above that. Um,
Okay.
but for Finding Dory, like I think another detriment for Finding Dory is that with Finding Nemo, it's like such a really good movie.
Good
Um,
luck filling that, right?
yeah, and Finding Nemo was more like a journey across the ocean where we saw all these different environments and everything. And we saw a little bit of that in the beginning of Finding Dory with like the kelp forest and everything. It looks really
Mhm.
amazing and really
It was
cool.
great.
Um, but then we're like stuck in the aquarium. Um,
Yeah,
which
which is
that
interesting,
yeah,
but
it's an interesting setting and everything. And I
it's
love
a Prison Break movie, though.
yeah, I love the whale shark Destiny, which is played by Dee from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is
Sweet D,
hilarious.
yeah.
Um, and the beluga, like those good two characters I really like. I also really like man, what was the name of the octopus? Um,
Carl? Hank?
Hank. Yeah, yeah. The way he moves in the movie is really cool.
It has, yeah, there's some really brilliant moments with the visuals and his character. Like, I like how he uses his tentacles as arms and like
Yeah,
sips coffee and stuff. Uh Yeah, it just wasn't nearly as powerful as Finding Nemo. It's hard to retread that where it's like, you know, Finding Nemo, Finding Dory, and it's like, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Which is
Uh,
why, like, I'm sure there are people who are like, again, where I'm like going up to bat for Monsters University, and people are like, it wasn't necessary. And I'm like, okay,
right.
fair. It wasn't necessary, but it was still good. Finding Nemo, Dory to me wasn't necessary and wasn't good in my well, not bad. It was just average. Like it was like, I watched it. It just didn't do it for me as much as Finding Nemo by a long shot.
Right.
All right, Cars 3.
Cars 3. I'm going to say something. I think it's the best one.
It absolutely is.
Yeah. I think it's the best like Cars movie, so I'm going to put it like above Cars for me and here in the B tier.
I'm with you. I actually put it above Monsters Inc.
Oh, wow.
Or nah, it's not above Monsters Inc. But still the best one. They went back to basics, and it was a very relatable story of like your time in the sun coming to an end and resigning and retiring in dignity and passing the baton off to the next generation, and how
Right.
an alarming amount of people want to clean the muffler of Ramirez in real life.
Yeah. Was it
Get under
Ramirez or
her hood.
Cruz?
That was I thought it was
What was the car's
Ramirez.
name?
I
Was it
thought Cruz
Ramirez?
was from Coco, De La
Oh,
Cruz.
oh yeah. That's right.
I thought it was
Um,
Ramirez, yeah.
but yeah.
I mean, if you want to bone Cruz, and just give it a second.
But with Cars 3, I watched this with our friend Hirasashi in a theater. We watched it in a theater full of NASCAR fans, which was like
Uh-oh.
the best way to experience this movie. Because like when the races happen, it's like, oh yeah, it's like I'm like actually at the track.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
So it was a lot of fun, and also like again Pixar showing their improvement with like that scene with them racing on the beach looks great.
It's great.
Yeah.
And we have Nathan Fillion again as the secret villain.
Yeah. um.
Lightning McQueen, how's it going?
Coco.
I loved Coco. S
Coco
tier.
was really good. Yeah. Um. Yeah. I
I
want. Do I
loved
want
it.
to put in the S tier? I don't know.
Up to you. It's S tier for me though.
Maybe. Yeah. I'll put in S tier. I did have like my that is my like top movie of that year. Um. But yeah, Coco's really fantastic. The colors are amazing. The story's really good. It made me tear up multiple times.
Mhm.
Well, through like multiple watches. So it's a really great movie. And it also
Fantastic.
it's
Good
Pixar's
director.
first musical movie. Because like it's the only movie of theirs that has like multiple
Okay.
songs that characters actually sing.
Okay, that's fair. It's wonderful. Great characters. There was great characters with a great setting. I know that people were comparing it to like Book of the Dead, and they're like, it's
Book
stealing
of
from Book
Life, you
of the
mean?
Dead or Book of Life. I'm sorry, and like how uh Jorge Gutierrez was like the guy who created Book of Life. He's just like, I don't give a damn. He's like, I love it. More Mexican stuff, please.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like cool. So good stuff. It's very good.
yeah,
And a nice little twist in it too.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that end with the singing to Coco was very powerful.
Oh
Good
yeah,
shit.
because like literally only like a couple years before my grandma passed away, so I was like,
Mhm.
oh, that hit me very hard. With
Yeah.
the end.
And there's precedents legit where singing to a loved one who has Alzheimer's or dementia, it's like you can
Yeah,
get through to them
yeah. That's
potentially.
that's what happened to my grandma. Is like her mind was starting to go. So
I'm sorry. Well, it's a good movie. Again, it's powerful stuff. All right. Incredibles 2.
Incredibles 2.
It just couldn't stick the landing for me.
Yeah, I gotta put it in like C tier.
You got Bob Odenkirk, you got Better Call Saul, you got Jimmy McGill in it though. Um,
You
I'd
got
put it
Miss Incredible's thick ass.
oh, S tier. Um, I'd put it in B tier, but it's gonna be like mid B tier. Actually, I think it might be below Cars 3.
Yeah, I have it in C tier below both Cars.
What's next? Toy Story 4?
Toy Story 4. Talk about
This was
unnecessary.
it was insanely unnecessary. I it wasn't bad, but it like out of all of the Pixar films that were sequels, this one felt like it did the most damage, in my
Yeah,
opinion, where it's like this wasn't necessary. Monsters University works. Even Cars 3, not Cars 2, works. Cars 2
yeah,
is like, what the hell happened? But Finding Dory wasn't necessary either, but you can at least spin it where it's like, yeah, okay, I can follow
yeah.
through.
And
Toy
Incredibles 2
Story
is like,
4,
yeah, Incredibles 2 is like something that people wanted because
right.
because of the end of the first Incredibles. But for Toy
Yeah,
Story
people
4,
wanted
it's like
to
we already ended this. Like,
we you're reopening something we didn't need.
yeah,
So Toy Story 4, it's if I'm judging it on its own merit, I put it in B tier.
I'm putting it below Incredibles 2 for me.
I'm putting it below Incredibles 2, but I just can't overstate or I can't like underline it enough to say how unnecessary it was. It's like this didn't have to exist. I didn't care about Bo Peep.
Yeah.
I just did not.
They did
Sorry.
have interesting things with like, oh yeah, Forky, like becoming
Forky's great.
sentient. It was like, oh, are we going to explore that? But like, that's sort of a side note to the main story of like Woody like finding his own like thing to do. All right, oh boy, Onward.
Onward was gosh. It stinks because like I feel like there was effort and you all were trying it's almost like you looked at the Pixar formula and a computer generated
A computer
this
AI like
outcome.
yeah algorithm.
It's like take family unit issues along with fantasy world that is modern and it's onward. And I'm like, oh, because I mean, like for what it's worth, the end was cool, but this was probably one of the weakest Pixar films I've ever seen.
Oh yeah,
Um,
like I remember when we were talking about it, like on the Semi Perfect podcast we do with our friend AC Race Best. He was like, and after like seeing Soul, he was like, oh yeah, it's the best Pixar movie. It's the best and worst Pixar movie I've seen this year. And then I was like, wait, what about Onward? He's like, oh yeah, that was the movie that came out. It
it's
was
forgettable
incredibly
too.
forgettable, even in the same year it came out.
The Good
Also,
Dinosaur.
it
That is
came out
up there.
it came out the same year, or this is around the same time the pandemic started. So it's like,
Yep.
oh wow, it had a very bad luck.
It's
For me, like it's the top of the D tier. Like I probably enjoy it more than Brave or Cars 2, but uh, yeah, it's D tier for me.
word. I only have Cars 2 and D tier at the moment. That'll probably
Um,
remain the case for me. Soul was good, but it wasn't as good as I was hoping it to be. I think there's obviously very powerful commentary here and a really neat uh way of looking at life and death and souls.
mhm.
And that's powerful. But there was just something about it where I'm like, it couldn't really stick the landing the way I was hoping it would. Visually outstanding. Like, holy shit,
Yeah, it
Pixar
looks incredible.
Pixar is just insane at that. So I put Soul in B tier, actually.
B tier,
Upper,
wow.
I
Like
put it in B
I
tier,
probably like this movie a lot more than you do because like it's an S tier movie for
or
me.
maybe lower A tier for me.
I felt kind of the same way about this as I did with Inside Out. Um, there's that moment in the film where he's talking to the successful musician. I forget the character's name. After he gets the gig, and he's like, "What now?" It's like, "We do it again tomorrow night." It's like, I thought I'd feel different after like getting what he wanted. Um,
It's the chase.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's
I thought that was like a very incredible scene to me.
Yeah, I mean, it has some pretty mature moments. Um, him talking to his mother and hearing what she has to say. I mean, that's
Yeah.
good. Luca.
Yeah, Luca. Probably
Luca,
one of the most unique looking films on here.
yes. I didn't love it as much as everybody else did, but I still liked it a lot.
Yeah.
But visually phenomenal. I really like the character designs. I love the little Italian town. There's that scene where they're jumping in and out of the water, like out of the into the air and transforming their bodies. That was a cool dynamic scene.
Yeah, yeah.
I put Luca in
I think I
A
might have it
tier.
as the top of the B tier for me, for Luca.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed Luca, and I like the monster designs and the creepy uncle that he has. That was great.
That's right.
Um, but yeah,
Turning red.
Luca's really good. And then the last movie we have here, Turning Red, the most recent movie, other than Lightyear, which will come out this week.
Bro, I
Um,
love Turning Red. It was
yeah,
great.
I loved it too. It's easily A tier for me.
Yeah, I actually have it in upper A tier.
Yeah, I think I do I like it more than Incredibles and Up? I don't know. I think I
I
might
d
like it. I like it more than Ratatouille. I'll put it there.
ooh, fighting words.
Uh, because I found it like very relatable. At least for us, because we were both 13 in 2002. Um, and also especially if you have like an artistic mind and whatever, and I've seen a lot of artists posts on Twitter after they saw this movie of the little format of
That's right.
of her like drawing in her notebook, and people putting their own drawings of like when they were kids of what
That's
they would draw.
relatable, right?
um yeah, so I really enjoyed the movie for that, and it has some really great music in it too.
Oh, yeah. I think it's very, very good.
Like all the like the background score is really good. So yeah, I guess that's what I have for my my tier list. You can post yours to me, and I'll probably put it on here.
I have it. I'll send it your way. Again, like, there are some things that shift around as far as my opinion goes, but that's more or less what I feel for, my favorite Pixar films as far as ranking goes. Um, I actually it's tough because I feel like yeah, I stand by it. I stand by what I have posted up there. So boom,
Okay,
done. Cool.
neat. So I guess yeah, that's our tier list for Pixar movies. Other than
Mhm.
Lightyear, which comes out this weekend.
We'll see how that stands. Apparently, it's getting good reviews.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it. So
Cool.
we'll see. Um,
Hell yeah.
next time we'll probably do a tier list of Disney movies, maybe like Walt Disney Animation Studios.
I'm down for that.
There's like 60 of those.
Let's
Um,
go.
all right. So thank you for being in this video, and thank you for watching. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.